Let's bring in our military analyst, Professor Michael Clarke. And clearly President Zelenskyy is there today and yesterday to try and convince Congress to vote in favour of this support. It's interesting, actually, that he's not as good a cheerleader for this as he used to be. His star has fallen a little bit in US eyes. Nonetheless, it's critical from his perspective that this gets over the line.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the money runs out at the end of the year. American aid to Ukraine has dropped by about a third since the Gaza war for fairly obvious reasons. The Ukrainians are running short of ammunition, particularly artillery shells. And this money is really critical. I mean, it's 61 billion, which is in the package. There's 14 billion for Israel, 61 billion for Ukraine, about 31 billion for other things, including Taiwan. It's 106 billion. And it's held, it's locked. And some Republicans oppose it because they're playing hardball against more money for a wall in the South, against immigration in the South. But some Republicans oppose it simply because they oppose it. They oppose the idea of money for Ukraine. They're saying, look, we spent 200 billion in Ukraine. What will another 60 billion achieve? The 200 billion hasn't so far achieved. And of course, there's an answer to that, but they pose that question.
And just touch on for us where this funding relative to funding from the EU and the UK is at this point. Because initially, the US was the vast majority. Actually, as they've tapered it off a little bit, the EU stepped up a bit.
That's right, yeah. And the EU is trying to funnel 50 billion euros, which is about the same as dollars these days. So they're trying to funnel 50 billion euros from their general budget to Ukraine, and that's being blocked by Viktor Orban in Hungary. And the Europeans are now looking to see if they can find a way of getting it off the books to funnel 50 billion that's not part of the general budget towards Ukraine. They're also looking at funneling the profits from Russian assets, which are frozen in the West. There's about 350 billion of Russian assets frozen. And those assets, been frozen since 2022, are earning money because a lot of them are in securities. And so they're earning interest. And there's a view, can we actually, we can't give the reserves themselves to Ukraine legally, but maybe we can give the interest. Which would be about 15 billion over a few years. So the EU are trying to find ways around. But, you know, America have got the Republicans opposing it for reasons of principle and practicality. Europe, or the EU, has got Hungary opposing it for reasons of principle and practicality. And Ukraine is really running out of time to fund the operations, not just in 6 months' time, but in 1 month's time.
Just switching topic quickly, this story that Alexei Navalny's gone missing, what's your take on that?
Navalny, well, he's certainly gone missing. He's in a prison in Melikovo called IK6, and he's not there, but he was due to be moved to IK7 in the same region. It's about 150 miles east of Moscow, and his supporters haven't heard from him because they're due a video conference with him at regular intervals. And the Russian authorities are saying, oh, the machinery broke down, we couldn't actually do it, the system was down, so you couldn't see him. But he's not at IK6, he's not at IK7, they don't know where he is. Meanwhile, his supporters do the best they can. They're putting up flash posters as part of the election campaign. They've appeared in Moscow, St. Petersburg, even Novosibirsk. And they're putting these posters up before the authorities rip them down. And these posters have a QR code on them. And if people go onto the QR code, it links them to a website where they can see material. So the supporters are doing what they can. But as Putin has now begun his re-election campaign up to March, this isn't going to get any easier for them. And keeping Navalny out of the public's eye, even with his own supporters, is obviously part of the strategy. Question for us, of course, is he still alive, or is he just, as it were, suppressed even further? It's not good news either way.
Something to keep an eye on. Michael, as always, thanks.